Grab a cup of tea or listen as you go, ladies. This is your hour with Dr. Zoe, your life and relationship coach. With encouragement, on-point insight, inspiring guests, health tips, and advice, Dr. Zoe helps busy women keep their mind in the game by redefining your superwoman. You're listening to The Dr. Zoe Show.
Hi there, it's Dr. Zoe. This is a beautiful October fall day, and it's just one of those days where it's just wonderful to be alive. So welcome. You are a woman who is strong and capable and sometimes tired. And it's okay to be tired, ladies. Rest when you must, knowing that there is strength in the journey. Stress, that's what we're talking about today. Stress makes us tired, and we're going to be talking about conquering your stress. It's doable, right? Right? Yeah, right. It's doable. I've talked before about making friends with your stress and how not all stress is bad, which makes me happy because I live a high stress life. Those of you who've been listening to me know a little bit about it, and it's the way that I've designed my life. I love it. And I do what I love, so it doesn't all feel like stress to me. But because of that, stress is an important topic to me. And I think it's one for you too, because most of us live lives that are a little bit busy and we're doing a lot and we wear many hats and sometimes it can get overwhelming. So today we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Kathy Gruver, and we are going to chat about this stress situation in our lives. And if you're listening for the first time, welcome. My show is a live radio show that I also podcast. So you may be listening on podcast or the show. If you're a woman, you've come to the right place. I am a licensed psychotherapist and life and relationship coach. My passion, why I do this show as your life coach, is to help you find your superpower, embrace it, and share it with the world. I invite you to listen to my other episodes on iTunes and other podcast places. And I also ask you to give me a review so you can find it as well, or other people can. Okay, so it's fall. It makes me think of the holidays coming up, and for busy women, that can make us even more stressful or stressed out. I determine every holiday that I am not going to let stress be a driving factor for me and my family. Some years I'm better at it than others. So, okay, let's get to it. My guest, Dr. Kathy Gruver, is an award-winning author, a natural health practitioner. She has a PhD in natural health. She's also a hip hop dancer and trapeze artist. I love it. She's the host of the new national TV series, The Alternative Medicine Cabinet. She studied mind-body medicine at the famed Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at Harvard Medical School. And she's a natural health practitioner with over 2 decades of experience. She's penned countless articles, contributed as an expert to dozens more, and appears regularly as an expert on radio and TV shows. And she's written 5 books. Welcome, Dr. Gruver.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
You are indeed.
Yay. Good. I'm so glad. So you are an adventure seeker like me, which is why I say I have a lot of stress in my life, but good stress, like jumping out of airplanes. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that at the beginning of the show, that you choose to have your lifestyle this way, because I think that's so important. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, I started out as an actor. So I got on stage in 5th grade and swore I would never get off. And I guess in some way I sort of haven't, because I do a lot of radio and TV, a lot of public speaking. And my main topic is stress. All of that came to me very accidentally. I started out as a massage therapist, and then I built into doing things like Reiki and homeopathics and herbs. I'm also a hypnotherapist, and I really found the common denominator with most of what I was doing was to be people's stress. You know, whether it's the massage they needed or the emotional stuff they were going through, that was a stress-related thing. And so I started writing books. I have 7 now, which is really cool.
Oh my goodness. Awesome.
I don't know when I wrote 2 more, but I did in the summer. And so my objective is really to just let people know they have choices, let them know they have options, and to guide them through this, what can be crazy world of stress and nutrition and alternative medicine. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
That is awesome. Thank you. I've had a chance to watch some of your stuff. I told you I was listening to your TED Talk right before the show. So even with my education, there have been times in my life when I've realized that something wasn't good for me and I needed to get it out of my life. But it wasn't until I was able to get whatever it was out of my life that I actually realized how stressful it was, because you kind of feel that burden lifted and you feel so light and you go, wow, I was dealing with that whole time. So how do we recognize the signs of stress?
Yeah, that's actually an awesome question, because the point of our body is to find that place of homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we put our clothes on in the morning, we know we just put clothes on, but throughout the course of the day, we don't feel our clothing on us.
Right.
Typically, we don't feel that we're wearing jeans, or we don't feel the shoes on our feet, because our body adjusts to that and makes it normal. Because if we felt all of that stuff all of the time, we'd go crazy. We'd never get anything done. And so it's sort of that way with stress. We pile a little bit on and the body goes, okay, we can handle that. And then you get used to it. And then you pile more on. And it's not until, like you said, you lift it off where you go, oh my God, I've been carrying this around that entire time. So some of the warning signs that you might not think about: sleeplessness, overeating, indulging in drugs and alcohol, feelings like, things that you used to find pleasure in, you don't enjoy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of sighing. That's one that we don't think about. If you hear people walking around your office going, and taking these gasps for air, that's actually a sign of stress. It's funny, I'd done a radio show and I went through a couple of the warning signs and there was just dead silence on the other end. And, you and I were Skyping, so who knows technically what's going on? And I thought I lost the guy. And all of a sudden he goes, oh no. And I said, oh, did we lose our feed? And he goes, no, I'm stressed. I had no idea.
Oh my goodness.
And he didn't realize that all of these things that he thought was either aging or everyday living, or that's just the way it is, he had become to look at those as so normal. He didn't realize that was his body and his mind and his spirit kind of knocking on the door and going, dude, you're stressed. You need to calm down. So it's fascinating. You really have to know yourself. That's the key to this.
Yeah. And I think also in some ways, of course, it's an adaptive process that our body does. Because I think of when, like, my mom comes to visit me, I've got 4 kids in my house, or when anybody comes to visit me and they're like, oh my goodness, it's so crazy. How do you deal with it? I'm like, it's fine. I don't even hear all the noise that's going on around me. And I also think back to when I only had one child, or before I even had a child, and I couldn't imagine how parents do all that they do. And of course, now, 4 or 5 kids later, I'm doing it, but it's kind of like that frog in the boiling pot, right?
Yes, if you do it slowly, you adapt to it and you don't even know. But also, we do make these choices. And,
sure.
You sound like you've kind of the life I do. I don't have kids, but I am very go, go, go. I'm running off and traveling a lot. I do a lot of writing, and I do, like you said at the beginning, trapeze for fun. So I think we are all born and we all develop a certain stress hardiness. And it's really important to know what those levels are, because things that I find, oh, that's just my day, other people find that completely stressful. I tell them what I do in one day and they look at me in awe and say, oh my God, that's like a month for me.
Right.
That's what I like. I've set up my life to be very fast paced and very full. And you have to know what your own boundaries and limitations are. Things certainly pop up that we have to handle. But, if you set up your life in such a way that it works for you and you call in people for help and you delegate and you ask for what you need, it's easier to handle that way.
That's a very good point. And yes, I think that you and I are very similar in that way, because I always have people saying that to me. How do you do everything that you're doing? Like you said, it's a comfort level that probably you and I both have. But I think it's important to know, I guess, for every woman, your own level and how much stress you can pile on and still feel healthy.
Right.
So it's really figuring out those boundaries.
Exactly. And, sometimes, and like we said, because of this homeostasis thing, because of this adaptability, sometimes we think we're okay and we're actually not. So, there are days where I must have a certain face that I put on when I'm about to lose my mind, and my husband looks at me and goes, oh God, are you okay? And I feel fine. I think I'm totally handling it all. But to him, who knows me probably better than anybody else on this planet, he can look at me and go, uh-oh, she's making that face, she's about to lose it. So there are times where we think we're doing okay, and we're actually not. And this is where I think the really, the know thyself thing is so key. I have so many people that come to my office for a massage, and I say, how are you feeling today? And they go, well, where's it hurt? And they gesture to some vague area. If you don't know yourself, and if you don't know what you feel like when you feel good, if you don't know what you feel like when you feel slightly bad, there's no way that anybody can help you. And there's no way that you can make a change for the better if you kind of don't know what your ground level it is. And everybody's had that experience where the car suddenly makes a different noise. And you're like, oh, what is that clicking? We're more tuned into what our car sounds like and feels like than our own bodies. And we have to have at least as much respect for us as we do our Toyota, So Know yourself, really check in every day. We have to take a shower and brush our teeth. That's a great time to check in and see, how am I feeling? How am I looking? What's happening inside me?
Right. And so how does the busy woman check in? What are the main things she needs to be doing, or tips for how she can check in on a daily basis?
That's a great question. And it's really about taking a pause.
Mm-hmm.
And there is such a power in pause. And this is why I like things like meditation and mindfulness practices, because it allows us to stop first. And in this world of go, 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 and now, we don't even have to be quiet standing in line somewhere. We don't even have to be quiet in ourselves sitting in traffic, because we have this thing called a phone. And, you're in line at the bank or the post office, and you're not talking to your neighbor. You're not just sort of with yourself. You're flipping through to what's happening on Twitter. What's the latest cat video? Did I get that important email? There's no time to quiet ourselves. So we have to make that choice. We have to take that opportunity to check in and say, how am I feeling? Because I know you do that with your kids.
Right.
You see what's coming out of them. You see do they have a fever. You see, their eyes look a little funny today. So we have to look at ourselves that same way. And it really is just about taking like 2 minutes, standing in front of the mirror, breathing and saying, how do I feel? Or for those type A people like myself who love like little journals and little like filling out forms and things like that, I'm a total nerd when it comes to that. Get a health journal and fill that in as to, how's the weather making you feel? How's your cycle today? Are you cramping? Are you upset? What did that food make you feel like? We have to know these things, or else we can't help ourselves, and then no one else can help us either.
That's a good point. And I know for me, I've started, because my natural response when I jump out of bed is to reach over and pick up that phone. And now I leave it in its dock and I say, you know what? Let me get my morning started. Let me take some time in quiet. Hopefully the kids are asleep. Usually they're not, but let's take a second, try to focus on myself, maybe pray, meditate for a few minutes before I pick up that phone. Because once I pick up my phone, I've got notifications, I've got all that kind of stuff coming in. And so I know that helps me. So let's say you have done that. So you've taken some time, you're paying attention to yourself, and you realize, okay, there's a lot of stress going on here. How do I know what things I should let go? How do I even start that process?
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's going to so vary according to the situation and to who you are. There are some things we just have to deal with. We have to get the kids to school. We have to finish the taxes. We have to have that meeting with our boss. So it really is sometimes writing not so much a to-do list, but maybe a to-don't list. I just came up with that.
I like that.
What can we delegate? What don't we have to worry about right now? And if we do have this big thing we have to do, let's break it down into workable steps. Because, if you have a dinner party and you walk into the kitchen and it's filled with dishes, what is your first thought? Oh, I can't handle all this.
Right.
But you know what you do? You do one dish at a time. And I think we forget that. We forget that we don't have to clean the garage. We need to go through one box. And maybe it's one box a week. Maybe it's one box an hour. Maybe it's a box and then you don't touch it again for a while. We look at these giant tasks and they stress us out. And again, the key with stress, though, is stress isn't really the problem, because we can't control the stress. We can control our response to it. And in this moment, in this present moment, there is no stress. The stress is behind us and things we're remembering and dwelling on, and in the future and things we're worried about, and they probably won't happen anyway. So staying right now present here, we're okay. There's no stress.
That is so true. And I talk to my clients about that all the time, is taking 2 hands, putting them down on the chair, on whatever it is you're sitting on, and feeling the now and being present and asking yourself that question. Am I okay right now? Is anything crazy happening in this second? And usually the answer is no. And so, yes, when we talk about stress, a lot of it, anxiety really is about future, not present. So I want to come back, because I think you made a really good point. It's not the stress that causes the issues with us. It's the way we deal with it, the way we hold it, the way we carry it. So when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit more about healthier ways to carry and hold your stress. We are here with Dr. Kathy Gruver talking about dealing with stress. Ladies, we'll be back in just a minute. People ask me, how do you have so much energy? I am not a coffee drinker, but I love the benefits of matcha green tea. More antioxidants than coffee and a smooth energy, not the jittery kind that lasts me all day long. Perfect for you supermoms too. I have searched the world over for that perfect matcha for my smoothies, and I have found it at Kiss Me Organics. You can get it too at kissmeorganics.com. Enter the promo code Dr. Zoe, DRZOE, for 10% off and free shipping. Experience the smooth, healthy, organic energy of matcha green tea. KissMeOrganics.com. Welcome back. This is Dr. Zoe, and I'm here with my guest, Dr. Kathy Gruver, and we are talking to you ladies all about stress, how you can recognize that sometimes it's not such a bad thing and how we can deal with it. Dr. Gruver, thanks for being on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell our listeners, how can they get a hold of you and what kinds of things do you have going on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way, I've got two different sites. One is thealternativemedicinecabinet.com, and there I've got links to past shows, so I'll definitely put this up. And I've got all of my books, 7 of those, links to past, not only past interviews, but also some resources that I found that I really like, and just a lot of information about health and wellness there. And the other site is kathygruver.com, and my books are there, my TEDx talk, links to some speaking videos. You can find my trapeze videos all over the internet, which is kind of fun. And there's links to my books there as well, and I encourage you to check it out. I do a lot of motivational speaking and health speaking, and if I can help out in any way in that, I'd love to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So I want to get into the nutritional stuff too, and we'll do that, I think, after the next break. But let's talk a little bit about how you hold, manage, take care of, and deal with your stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that we're talking about that because, it's fine to talk about how bad it is and how scary it is and what are the solutions. Okay, So here they are. Really the key, and we said this before the break, the key is recognizing that stress isn't the problem, that it's our response to it. And oftentimes we don't respond, we react. We have this knee-jerk reaction. We hear people say, stop overreacting. You never hear somebody say, stop over-responding. So I think it's important to recognize that the response aspect of that really goes back to one of the first things we talked about, which is taking that pause. Because in that pause, there's power to actually make a choice and respond. Because we know when we've reacted, that's when we yell at the kid, we have a fight with the spouse, we get snippy snotty on the phone with someone, because we're just like, blah, rather than actually thinking about what we're going to say and do. Because typically it's not as bad as was warranted by that thing we just reacted to. So a couple of things. I teach 5 steps in stress reduction, and I start with the breath because that's just so important. It roots us in right now. It brings us to the present. So I teach a breath work. And then I talk about things like affirmations and visualization, because with 60,000 thoughts a day and 50,000 of those being negative, wow, we're so hard on ourselves, and we're having these images and these visualizations or these memories that are negative. And because the brain doesn't recognize the difference between what we're thinking about and fantasizing about versus what's really happening, we put ourselves into a stress response when we're thinking this negative stuff. And studies show that things like visualization and affirmations really work at helping change our mind, and we can change our physiology with those things. So I recommend those. But my favorite technique, and I would love to teach this to everybody because it's great, is my mini meditation. So I would love to teach that to you.
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. So for all of you that heard the word meditation and cringed, like I used to, because I'm a terrible meditator, I thought you had to sit a certain way and you touch fingers together, but if you touched the wrong one, I didn't know if you were sucked into a different realm, and then you couldn't itch anything, and then you had to clear your brain, and I'm go. I'm very type A. Don't tell me to sit down and not think.
Exactly.
Not even possible. I would call it to-do list meditation, because I'd get 2 seconds into it and suddenly go, oh, I got to call that guy.
That is so funny, because I do the same thing in yoga class. I cannot clear my mind for anything.
Right. Okay. So I have a solution to this. And we can thank Harvard for this, because this is where I learned this. So I'm going to actually lead you guys through this. I'm not going to do the full thing because dead air on the radio is nothing worse than that. But I'm going to have, if you're in a safe place to do so, please don't do this while you're driving. This creates a whole other problem. But go ahead and close your eyes. And all I want you to do is just focus on your breath. Inhale and the exhale, the rise and fall of the chest. And you're not trying to change it. You're not trying to speed it up or slow it down. You're just seeing what your breath is doing. And on your next inhale, think, I am. And on all of your inhales, think, I am. And on your next exhale, think, at peace. And on all of your exhales, think, at peace. So you're concentrating on your breath, the rise and fall of your chest. And on the inhale, you're thinking, I am. exhale at peace, and you just keep repeating that. And if other thoughts intrude, that's okay. You just acknowledge that you're thinking, dismiss them without judgment, return to the breath and the I am at peace. And you can do that for a minute. You can do that for 5 minutes. You can do that for 20 minutes. And go ahead and take one more big inhale and exhale. I am at peace. I definitely sped that up for the purpose of the show, but that's it. That's all it takes. And what's so cool about that is that you do that for a couple of minutes, it stops the fight or flight response. It stops that chemical reaction that can be so bad for us over time. It brings us back to the present moment. It gives us that pause and trains us to respond rather than react. And you've just meditated, and you can do it anywhere. I do it when the light turns red and I'm mad because I was going to go on the yellow, but the guy in front of me stopped at the yellow. I take my hands off the steering wheel and I just wait. And I do I am at peace, because I can either be mad at the guy in front of me,
right,
which is pointless. I can't pick him up and move him as much as I'd like to, or I can use that time to relax and to meditate. So that is the gateway drug to meditation for me, because now I actually can sit on the pillow, and I've done up to 2-hour meditation sessions where I have indeed floated away into a million bubbles. But this mini, that was the key to me. It was just magic.
But what I love about that is that you give yourself permission to not have to clear your mind. That instead you're giving the positive affirmations, and without that pressure to clear your mind, I bet you it's so much easier to clear your mind.
Yep, because you can't think two things at once. You can't be thinking I am at peace and think other things. Now, it'll try to intrude, which is fine. That's natural. You're not going to, unless you meditate full time. And when I studied with Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said there are days he has bad meditation because he's distracted, and I'm thinking, oh my God, dude, that's your job. Like, your job is to sit there and meditate. When he has a bad day of it, that makes me feel so much better, because that's not my job.
Right.
So yeah, if it intrudes, just dismiss it. But the key is to try to get the thought right as it starts, as opposed to suddenly having a 20-minute fantasy going on, or daydream, or to-do list. Catch it at the beginning and just bring it back gently. Oh, I was thinking. Okay, great. And return to the breath and the meditation. It's so fabulous. It's changed my life.
And what I love to do when I'm really trying to meditate or really trying to focus is when those intrusive thoughts come into my brain, I actually visualize myself taking them and putting them up on a shelf and telling myself, oh, they're there. They're going to be there later. I don't need to focus on them now. They're up there. I put them up there. They'll be there later. Let me get back. Now, I know that takes a little bit of mental time, but it really just helps for me to visualize clearing it out.
Absolutely. And promising yourself you'll deal with it later.
Right.
And I have so many clients who have trouble with sleep, and sleep typically is not a physiological thing. It's a mind thing.
Correct.
You wake up in the middle of the night and suddenly you're going through 500 things you have to do. Do a brain dump. Turn on a little light, write it all down, give yourself permission to deal with that later, and go back to sleep.
Yes.
It's better than ruminating all night about, oh, I got to remember to pay that bill. Oh, I should pay that bill. I got to remember to pay the bill. Either one, get up and pay the bill. Or two, write it down and promise that you'll deal with it tomorrow. It's so much healthier for us.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. Thank you. So I read somewhere where you said that you can use your daydreams to boost your immune function. We'll get into that maybe next segment, but also increase relaxation. How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that the mind doesn't recognize the difference between reality and fantasy as far as what's actually happening. And so if we want to, we're daydreaming anyway. We always have these little movies and these images that are running through our head. We can take ourselves on vacation whenever we want to, simply by this is a mindfulness practice and visualization, simply by bringing in all of our senses. So if I guided you all right now to, you're sitting in that chaise lounge, and in the background you hear that ocean lapping up on the beach, that inflow and outflow of the water, and you hear birds in the sky, and you feel that warmth of the sun, but there's this slight breeze that hits your arms, and you can smell that clear ocean air, and you put your hand down and you can trail it through the sand. And if we do that for like 5 or 10 minutes, your body and brain thinks it's on vacation.
So you can go hide in the toilet and sit, lock the door when your kids are out there and do this mini meditation. Love it.
But seriously, we can visualize ourselves wherever we want to, or you can actually boost your immune system. You can enhance sports function and all that good stuff. Studies support all this, especially with athletes. So yeah, our brain can take us wherever we want to go. It's fabulous.
It is. Our brains are so powerful. And I just love all of your advice. It's like right down my alley. Okay, so we're going to go on break real quickly and come back. And I'm here with my guest, Dr. Kathy Gruver. We're talking about stress. And next segment, I want to talk a little bit about our health, how our nutritional choices increase, decrease our health, and what we can do to work on reducing our stress through our health habits. We'll be back in just a minute. People ask me, how do you have so much energy? I am not a coffee drinker, but I love the benefits of matcha green tea. More antioxidants than coffee and a smooth energy, not the jittery kind that lasts me all day long. Perfect for you supermoms too. I have searched the world over for that perfect matcha for my smoothies, and I have found it at Kiss Me Organics. You can get it too at kissmeorganics.com. Enter the promo code Dr. Zoe, DRZOE, for 10% off and free shipping. Experience the smooth, healthy, organic energy of matcha green tea. KissMeOrganics.com. Hi, this is Dr. Zoe. That commercial break went super fast for me. So I am back with Dr. Kathy Gruver, and we are talking about ways to reduce your stress, ladies. And so we've been talking about what it is and realizing that stress doesn't have to be bad. It's the way that we carry it. And we've talked a little bit about some things that you can do to reduce it, many vacations, many meditations. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit, Kathy, about our diet and our health habits that can contribute to our stress and what we can do about it.
Beautiful. Yeah, one of my favorite things. Favorite. Okay, so typically when I talk about nutrition, and I am not one of those buy the latest juice they found in the Amazon that's going to make you look 15. I don't do those sort of fad health things. My philosophy with nutrition is sort of twofold. First of all, we have to eat the way our grandparents did. We have to eat real food, not these food-like products and these fake food things. We have to eat the best food that we can, the most natural food that we can. The second part of that is I go with the 80-20 rule. So to me, 80% of the time, you do the best you can. 20% of the time, maybe you do want the donut. Maybe you do have a sip of soda. Maybe you do have pizza that night. Maybe you're traveling and the only thing you can find is a fast food restaurant. There are still good choices you can make in that environment as well. You don't have to get the triple cheeseburger. Maybe you get the grilled chicken or something, or a salad, something a little better. So having said that, there's certain things I really think we should be cutting out, and soda is one of them, especially for women. Diet soda, horrible for us. It is not a health food. Artificial sweetener should be pulled off the market. It is so bad for our health in so many ways, and some people are more sensitive to that than others. If you are sensitive to sulfa medication, which is an antibiotic, if you're sensitive to sulfa drugs, you tend to be more susceptible to having issues with artificial sweetener and MSG. I am one of those people.
Okay.
It's not fun. I can tell you, having had massive quantities of MSG at one Thanksgiving meal, it is not a pretty sight. So try to avoid the artificial sweeteners and the diet soda. Regular soda, also horrible. And the brown sodas, so the colas, what they do is they actually leach calcium out of our bones. So ladies, we're concerned about osteoporosis and osteopenia and, our kids' teeth and getting them enough calcium. And soda actually pulls that out. So cut the soda out. Bad. Or, one a month. Make it a treat. It was never meant to be a drink every day, all day beverage.
Right.
It was actually invented. Do you know why they had? I love this bit of trivia. Do you know why they had soda fountains in the pharmacies?
No.
Because the pills and the drugs that they gave you at that point, they didn't have a really good way to make it taste good. So you'd get your potion of gunk from the pharmacist, and then you'd walk 50 feet away to the soda fountain and you'd chase it with your sweet soda.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
It was. I'm a medical nerd. I love it. So it was meant to actually help your a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
That's right.
What it was.
Wow.
To quote
somebody.
Mary Poppins. Monty Python. That's not right. Mary Poppins.
Right.
They're both fun. They're very fun. The other thing, so cutting out soda, the artificial sweetener. Also, we're dealing with GMOs at this point.
Yes.
This was a bigger thing a couple of years ago when we were trying to get all this labeling to happen, and it's still a movement, but it's been sort of taken down the list by other things. GMOs are really bad for so many reasons. I could do an entire hour on GMOs. We don't know ultimately what they're doing to our bodies. So the way my body reacts to them might be different than the way your body reacts to them. And I've done so many radio shows and so many articles specifically on the dangers and the unknown aspects of GMOs. And I've gotten letters from mothers around the country saying, thank you for telling people how bad this is. My child was having drop seizures. My child was having skin eruptions. My child was having anger outbursts. And, the list goes on and on and on. And it was linked to them having genetically modified components in their food.
Mm-hmm.
So for these parents, it wasn't about, it would be nice to know. They need to know.
Right.
So in your community, in your city, state, whatever it is, really pushing to have that stuff. It's not right at this point, not going to be pulled out. It's not going to happen. But at least we can know. The way to find them right now is corn, soy, and cotton are the three most commonly genetically modified components. And those are not the corn you get at the barbecue. It's the corn that goes into high fructose corn syrup, which is also something we should be subtracting.
Mm-hmm.
Corn and the soy and additives in foods, things like that. So if you're eating a packaged or processed food that's not organic, it's probably got some sort of genetically modified component in it. Right now, it's not a huge deal for our fruits and veggies, but those little stickers that your kids probably like to peel off and put on mirrors and projects and play with, those little food stickers actually tell us something. They tell us where the crop came from, but they also tell us if it's organic, conventionally grown, or GMO.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
I know. So if it's 4 digits, it's just conventionally grown, which means it does have herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, and you want to wash it well. If it's 5 digits and it starts with an 8, it has been genetically modified. And it will not say that on there anywhere, but that's the key, is 5 digits with an 8. If it's 5 digits with I think it's a 9, that means organic. And it's going to say organic because we want them to know. But I hate 8 is the way I figured that out.
Wow. So 5 digits and an 8. And just for people who might not know, people might hear, okay, GMOs, I know those are bad, but what are GMOs? What does that mean?
Beautiful. So GMO stands for genetically modified organism, or GM is just genetically modified crop. And what they've done is they have altered the genes in the crop to typically withstand herbicides, pesticides, fungicides. So corn is the primary example. And it used to be that in a cornfield, you get all these weeds. And for those of you who have ever used Roundup around your house, if you get Roundup on your lawn, on your good plants, dead. I mean, it kills everything. So what they used to have to do is walk down the corn rows and spray each weed. Very, very time consuming. So they genetically modified the corn seed to withstand Roundup. So it's called Roundup Ready Corn. And this way they can take a crop duster and they can spray the entire field.
And
the corn won't die, but the weeds will. So nature, what is the saying? If you build a better mousetrap, God's going to build a better mouse.
Right.
So now we're having a problem with these super weeds and these super bugs, and conventional pesticides that we've been using for a couple decades are now starting to not work. So they're talking about bringing things back like DDT, the stuff that's still in our water supply from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not solving the problem, and they've dumped millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of more gallons of pesticides on our food, because they can now, and it's spreading to organic crops, and it's getting on everything, and it's really starting to become a mess that's going to be hard to undo. It's killing off the bees and the butterflies and the aquatic wildlife. So it's not only that, they can say GMOs are safe, but we know pesticides aren't. And do you want your kids consuming that much pesticide? It's really bad for the brain development, and it stores in our body in fat. So I think it's contributing to some of our weight problems and our toxicity levels as well.
Of course it is. And a lot of our disorders as well. Thank you. Thank you for that education for anyone who might not have known. And of course, I knew what a GMO was, but I didn't know everything that you just said. So that's really helpful. Thank you. So 5 digits and starts with an 8, and that confirms that it is organic.
Not genetically modified.
I'm sorry, that it is genetically modified. Thank you. I just wrote that down. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
And again, you're not going to find much of it. A little bit of the crookneck squash, that yellow crookneck squash, and about half of the papayas out of Hawaii. Other than that, they are not yet commercially growing GMO food like that. It's feed for animals. It's going into processed and packaged food. So right now we're safe, but you can always check. There's a couple really good resources for that online to see what they're trying to push through to be approved for GMO.
And so if you are focusing on eating raw foods and whole foods, then you're going to help avoid some of that. So I'm curious, what is your diet? I'm always curious about what diets people are on.
So everybody assumes because I'm a health practitioner, I'm doing yoga all the time and I'm oming and I don't eat meat. Wrong. I eat tons of meat. If I have to put it in a category, and I think these categories are slightly misguided, but if anything, I'm probably closer to paleo, but my paleo people like wine. So I eat meat smartly. I don't do fast food. Typically, there's a couple local, like I love In-N-Out, and I'll occasionally have a Tommy burger, but those things are maybe once every 1 or 2 months. It's nothing that I eat all the time. But I have eggs every morning for breakfast. I kill off at least a dozen eggs a week. I drink primarily iced tea, which I know is horrible. I should be having more water. I justify it by saying it's water with a little bit of tea in it. And I do drink wine. My husband's a wine writer, so we have wine almost every night with dinner.
Nice. I love that. Okay, thank you. I love to hear about, and especially watching you and seeing, your life, which I think is a great example of health. I love to hear about people's diets. Thank you. So my takeaways from this are, number one, stress is not the problem, that it's how we hold it and how we carry it that is the issue in our lives sometimes, and that your brain doesn't know the difference between real and fantasy. And so we need to take advantage of that by telling ourselves good things, by putting good things into our mind. And what was that number, Kathy? That was amazing. 60,000 thoughts and 50,000 are negative?
Negative. Yep. Isn't that terrible?
Yes.
Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Absolutely. And the other thing that I really loved is no pressure when it comes to meditation, that you can take that time, even if it's 30 seconds to meditate, no pressure to try to clear your mind, but just focus on telling yourself the positive, I am at peace, and you can still have health benefits from that. So real quickly before we go, Dr. Kathy, can you tell us just some quick tips for mamas and helping their kids eat a little healthier? Because I think sometimes this whole process of, focusing on our nutritional health stresses us moms out, and then we feel so guilty about whatever we're feeding our kids. Do you have any quick tips?
Yeah, I think especially if you're trying to work and handle kids and you're doing so much, I think, first of all, the kids helping is huge. Getting the kids in the kitchen with you, teaching them at a really young age how to help prepare the food, letting them choose the menu and letting them choose what they like and be involved in that process. Because I think for so many kids, it's, the food magically appears either in a restaurant or at home, and they don't understand the process of, let's make a salad. Any kid can break up lettuce, You don't have to hand them a very sharp knife and say, carve that turkey, but, get them involved. I think that's really good. And telling them what the food does to their body, whether you equate it to what you feed the animals in the house or what you put in your car or, whatever they're into. I think really involving them in that and encouraging them to see how they feel when they eat certain things, I think would be really cool too. I just thought about that of, hey, you just had, 15 pieces of pizza. How do you feel now? Not so good, huh? Well, if you did this differently, and, I think using those real life examples would be a really good thing. And trying to maybe do like a Sunday night where you do a casserole or you do something that's going to give you food for a couple days, I think is really good to do too.
Oh yeah, that's always a really good mama tip. Any food that you can repurpose, give yourself a couple days off of making dinner is awesome. Those are some great tips. And I'm so glad that you said that about talking about where your food comes from. I do that with my daughter, and she'll, pick up a lollipop like, where does this come from? I'm like, well,
you're like, no one knows here. No one knows.
Right. Nobody knows. And that's why you shouldn't be eating it. This has just been a wonderful conversation, Dr. Gruver, and I really appreciate you being here today. Can you tell our listeners one more time where they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. The two sites are thealternativemedicinecabinet.com and kathygruver.com. And if I can help out in any way, check it out, grab some of my books, check out some old old workshops and lectures and radio shows, and it's all online. And go watch some flying trapeze too. Or better yet, get up there and try it.
Right. Get up and try yourself. Love that. Okay. So we have been here with my guest, Dr. Kathy Gruver. We will be back in just a minute. I'm going to be doing some real talk and answering some questions from my listeners. We'll see you in just a second. People ask me, how do you have so much energy? I am not a coffee drinker, but I love the benefits of matcha green tea. More antioxidants than coffee and a smooth energy, not the jittery kind that lasts me all day long. Perfect for you supermoms too. I have searched the world over for that perfect matcha for my smoothies, and I have found it at Kiss Me Organics. You can get it too at kissmeorganics.com. enter the promo code Dr. Zoe, DRZOE, for 10% off and free shipping. Experience the smooth, healthy, organic energy of matcha green tea. KissMeOrganics.com. Hello, you are back. This is Dr. Zoe Shaw, and we were just talking to Kathy Gruver, which was awesome, talking about stress. And now it's health tip time. Remember, your body and mind are intimately connected. You can't have health in one without health in the other. And that's why I have a health tip segment. Healthy looks different on everybody, so stop the comparisons, ladies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about perimenopause. Yes. I said it, and you're probably thinking that that's for old people, but no, you may not be too young to think about this. So I'm feeling like I'm a ways from this as well, but it may just be on the horizon. And so I just want to address it. So how do we know when we are in perimenopause, and how do we deal with that time period? First, what is it? Perimenopause is that time period before menopause actually happens. These are not actual events, but rather processes that our bodies go through. So here's the deal. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going through menopause. No, once you hit menopause, it's actually all over. So when women say, I'm going through it, menopause is the end. It's like saying, I'm going through maturity. No, maturity is what happens after the process of development. So you've hit menopause when you haven't had your period for 1 year. Menopause happens at an average age of 51, but perimenopause can be a 5 to 10 year process prior to menopause. Just like puberty can sometimes be a 5 to 10 year process for us as we develop as girls. So you could see perimenopause symptoms as early as your late 30s to early 40s, but you could still be 10 years away from menopause. So early menopause symptoms are usually a shortening of your cycle by a few days and sometimes much heavier bleeding, more severe cramping and bloating, and more irritability and mood swings. And it's kind of like, just like I said, it's a process. I've even noticed in my cycle that after I had my daughter 5 years ago, and I'm 42 now, my periods have gotten shorter and heavier on those first days. I also do notice, though, that the more that I exercise, the better that I eat, the less symptoms I have overall. And that has been proven. When I was doing some research, I was looking at vegans and vegetarians and how they tend to have an easier process through the whole perimenopause and menopause cycle and tend to have less hysterectomies and things like that going on with their cycle. So that's a good thing to know, that your lifestyle and diet can help. But anyway, so those early symptoms are all those things I talked about: heavy bleeding, severe cramping, bloating, more irritability, mood swings, basically the cycle from hell. So I might do a whole show on this one day, but here's just a couple of quick health tips for dealing with some of those perimenopausal difficult cycle symptoms. So the first one is something called Angus castus. Anguscastus. It's an herb. I'm going to put it in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. And it's best known for helping to balance the hormones during this early time when you may have heavy bleeding and cramping, bloating, irritability, and sometimes breast tenderness. So Angus cactus is a great herb. Another really great tea is called menopause support. So I'll put that in the show notes too. And don't be confused by the name, because I know you're not in menopause, or maybe you aren't, but it can help with very early perimenopausal symptoms. It has I never say this word right, isoflavonoids, I don't know how to say that, magnesium and hibiscus, which helps level out those hormones that cause those severe PMS symptoms. So those are my 2 tips if you're dealing with those difficult periods: Angus cactus and menopause support tea. So next up, real talk. If you're just tuning in, I'm Dr. Zoe. This is Real Talk, where I answer questions from my listeners and I share my own musings and encouragement. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have some questions that you would like for me to answer. You can get a hold of me on my website, zoe@drzoeshaw.com. There's contact information there. So I had a question. I actually had 2 questions from listeners about relationships. So the first one was, I've been in a relationship for 10 years and he won't marry me. He loves the kids and I love our life. What should I do? The next question, and I'm saying both of these because they're really related. What do I do? I've been in a 6-year, really good relationship, but he's not ready for marriage and I am. It seems ridiculous to break up when our relationship is so good. He says he wants to get married eventually, but he's not ready. But he's 95% sure, but concerned because we fight a lot. Okay, so these are basically the same issues. And here is what I have to say to women who are in a place where, the relationship itself is pretty good. There's nothing necessarily to complain about, but you want to move it forward and he doesn't. Number one is that men, humans really, tell us who they are. We just have to be willing to listen. Everybody really does. They tell us by what they say. They tell us by what they do. And a lot of times, especially when we have a lot of emotions attached to things, we are in denial about what's really going on. If you've been with someone for 10 years, if you've been with someone for 6 years, that's plenty of time for both of you to recognize whether or not you want to get married or not. So there are other reasons going on why he doesn't want to get married. Now, here's one that I know it's a little bit hard to hear. And I've talked to a lot of female clients about this, but sometimes when the relationship is just like a marriage, there's no reason for a man to want to get married. What's the point? So I ask people all the time, how do you act when you're dating versus how do you act when you are in a committed relationship versus maybe how do you act as a fiance compared to how you would act as a wife? And many women can't tell me the difference. And so when we get ourselves into those situations where we are acting like a wife, yet we're not married, and then we're frustrated because our partners don't want to marry us, it's something that in some ways we've created. So what can you do now? You've been in a relationship for 10 years or 6 years and you're already the wife. You just don't have a label, right? It might be time to back up. And I always suggest, even if you're, in your young 20s or whether you're, in your 40s, is that you do have a time frame. And I've asked people to say, okay, look at the relationship as it is right now. As it is right now, are you okay? And do you really want to marry this person? If the answer is yes, then you need to go to him and you need to say, as our relationship is right now, we've been together for 4, 5, 6, 10 years, which means it's not likely to significantly change. Do you want to marry me? And if the answer is no, then he's told you, because you can wait another 5 years, you can wait another 6 years, but nothing significantly is likely to change about the relationship. And so it's time to move on. Now, sometimes, and I do not ever suggest that you do this as a ploy to gain power or to try to control him. But sometimes when you are clear that your time is up and you are going to move on, it may be an impetus for him, if he really does want to marry you, to go ahead and ask the question. But never use that as a tool. You need to be ready to move on. And my answer to you is it's probably time to move on. Okay, so you've been listening to the Dr. Zoe Show, and I'm so glad that you guys are tuning in. You can tune in every week on Tuesdays from 12 to 1 Pacific and 3 to 4 Eastern at laradionow.com. For those of you who can't always listen live, check out my reruns of the show on iTunes, Google Play, Libsyn, and YouTube, where I am your life and relationship coach. I help sometimes struggling superwomen keep your mind in the game by redefining your superwoman. If you know of a friend who may benefit from any of our topics, please spread the love and share my show. And if you like my show, I would love for you to help me out with some stars on my podcast. That will allow other people to be able to find me and listen. Connect with me at drzoeshaw.com or any of my social medias at the handle Dr. Zoe Shaw. Join my free newsletter and get a copy of 30-Minute Life Transformation, The Secret to Getting Stuff Done by texting the word JOIN to 38470. I look forward to speaking with you wonderful ladies on social after the show. Have a super week.
You've been listening to The Dr. Zoe Show, redefining your superwoman, with your host, Dr. Zoe Shaw. Don't forget to sign up for her monthly newsletters to get encouragement, tips, and skills for keeping your mind in the superwoman game. Connect with her now at www.drzoeshaw.com. Tell your friends and subscribe to her podcast on iTunes. Join us next time for another edition of The Dr. Zoe Show.